will give the floor to Panagiotopoulou and Egzona Gashi to talk to us about multilingual pupils at Greek schools in Germany.
So, okay, we can start. Thank you very much, Petros. Hello everybody. In this presentation, Egzona Gashi and I, my name is Panagiotopoulou, will discuss the concept of Greekness for the perspective of multilingual Albanian Greek-speaking pupils at Greek schools in Germany. The quote you see here is from an interview with Eleni. Egzona and I conducted the interview in Germany using a multilingual Albanian Greek interviewing method based on the translanguaging approach. Eleni's statement refers to the Greek school she used to attend in Germany. Translated into English, it means everyone was truly, or with emphasis, fiks-fiks, really, really Greek-speaking. In this presentation, we will discuss the significance of these national schools for the transnational biographies of multilingual pupils. Although these schools are still considered exclusively or purely or only Greek, or to emphasize really, really Greek schools, in our project we refer to them as Greek diaspora schools in Germany. Just a moment. Yes. First, I will provide a brief overview of the historical context in which these diaspora schools were established. I will then present our project, which focuses on transnational families and the transnational biographies of pupils who attend or have attended these schools. The current significance of these schools will also be discussed from Eleni's perspective. Egzona will then provide a more detailed analysis of Eleni's transnational biography, as Eleni is one of the former pupils of Greek schools Egzona examines in her ongoing dissertation. The focus here is on Greekness as reconstructed from Eleni's perspective, using the concept of transpositioning. This will be illustrated in the conclusion. The first Greek state schools in Germany were founded in the 1980s by socially and educationally disadvantaged Greek migrant parents known as Gastarbeiter or guest workers. These schools became important at the time due to the educational inequalities experienced by the children of Greek migrants. For example, these children were placed in special classes and prevented from accessing higher education. From the perspective of the Greek state, they were and still are national Greek schools. However, according to Irenis Houti, these schools enabled children from Greek migrant families to attend universities in Greece and in Germany, allowing them to take advantage from a transnational European educational space. The resulting transnational biographies of these disadvantaged children challenge the national concept of educational success in both Germany and Greece. In recent years, it has been argued that Greek schools have become less relevant for children of former guest workers or second and third generation Greeks in Germany. However, due to the financial crisis, these schools have become once again important. They seem to be repeating history by providing an option for newcomers from Greece. This is because even today, newcomers to Germany are prevented for accessing higher education. They are often sent to special classes for at least 2 years, where they must deal with a very strict German-only language policy. For this reason, Greek-speaking parents from Greece are still trying to help their children overcome educational inequalities within the German school system and achieve social and transnational mobility through the Greek school. It is important to note that although these schools are classified as Greek national institutions, their pupil population is actually transnational and multilingual, not only Greek-speaking. For instance, 30 to 40% of pupils at Greek schools in North Rhine-Westphalia come from transnational multilingual families. However, previous research has largely overlooked the experiences of pupils who do not only identify as Greek. In our project, the term Greek diaspora schools refers to educational institutions for all pupils with a biographical connection to Greece, regardless of whether they are classified as Greek or non-Greek. Our project is titled Transnational Educational Biographies Between Greece and Germany. It focuses on the educational experiences of children and young people who have recently migrated with their families from Greece to Germany. Through biographical narrative interviews, we analyze how pupils navigate monolingual language policies, discrimination, and educational inequalities within the Greek and German educational systems. We also address their decision and the decision of the parents to return to the Greek educational system by attending a Greek school in Germany. In response to the research gap I mentioned before, one of the project's aims, which is also the subject of Egzona's dissertation, is to reconstruct the transnational educational biographies of Albanian and Greek-speaking children, young people, and their parents who currently live in Germany. This slide provides an overview of the project's development from 2020 to the present day. Based on the team's fieldwork experiences, ongoing analysis, and critical methodological reflections, we realized that conducting the interviews mainly or only in Greek would overlook the multilingual realities and linguistic biographical experiences and repertoires of the participants. In response, we expanded the project's thematic and methodological scope. Since May 2024, we have been conducting translingual interviews in Albanian, Greek, German, and English, depending on the participants' linguistic repertoires. As presented in the table, we have also expanded our field sites beyond Germany, recently conducting interviews in Athens to explore the transnational biographies of Albanian Greek-speaking, but also English and German-speaking young people who have lived in Germany, are planning to migrate there, or have other personal ties to the country. This has also inspired us to try a new approach to conducting multilingual joint interviews involving 3 participants, 2 researchers and 1 respondent. In this case, as in several other interviews, the respondent Vangelis chose to speak in both Albanian and Greek, presenting himself as a multilingual speaker. As Egzona and I spoke either Albanian or Greek, it was up to the bilingual Albanian Greek-speaking participants to decide which of us to discuss specific topics with. For example, Vangelis referred to a temporary return from Greece to Albania only in Albanian, not in Greek. Our aim is to reverse the power dynamics in the interview situation through translanguaging, as described by Ophelia Garcia and Li Wei. The intersection of our language repertoires is also evident given the omnipresence of German elements, since all 3 participants understand German. Now, let us turn to the interview with Eleni, who also identifies as multilingual. She incorporated elements of German and English into her responses, but mostly spoke Albanian with Egzona and Greek with me. She gave detailed accounts in both languages of her experiences of discrimination at a German school, and she recounted how pleased she was to find that the Greek school was so Greek that she felt as if she were in Greece itself. From Eleni's perspective, the Greekness of the Greek school was evident in the Greek-speaking staff and pupils, so she emphasized that everyone really did speak Greek. For Eleni, her sister, and other Greek-speaking children from transnational families, this Greek school seemed to offer an inclusive experience and a sense of belonging. From Eleni's perspective, this Greek-speaking school brought all the pupils together in the same way that schools in Greece do. Eleni's concept of Greekness seems to be a central educational resource and anchor in her transnational biography. In her words, "They were just like me. We were just one. I never felt like it was a new beginning."
I would now like to turn to further insights from Eleni's perspective, focusing on her negotiation of Greekness in relation to her transnational biography. And as already mentioned, this interview with Eleni is part of my ongoing PhD project with the title Transnational Biographies of Children, Young People and Parents Between Albania, Greece and Germany. And the central question guiding this project is how families biographically process multiple migration experiences in the context of their onwards migration between the three countries. And I'm mainly interested in how social inequalities and racism are experienced across generations and in different national contexts. This focus is especially important given the historically deep-rooted nationalist ideologies, media-driven stigmatization of the Albanians, and the nation-based monolingual language policies of Greek educational institutions. These racist and violent conditions in Greece, experienced either directly or through family members, are sharply described by Eleni. I quote, "They have been judged for their origin, or they have been judged for the religion they have, for the fact that they are Albanian, for the fact that your parents are thieves. I have seen violence and racism from very close." Since language functions as a marker of power and racialized difference, these dynamics also affect how Albanian language is used within families, both privately and in public in Greece. The devaluation of the language and its speakers has led to a decline in the use of Albanian among the children of Albanian migrants in Greece. As Nikos Gougonas points out, children's avoidance of Albanian is often tied to feelings of fear and shame. At this point, I think it's also important to emphasize that the Albanian language and, again, its speakers constitute, as Gazman Kaplani and Nicole May describe it, a new old presence for Greeks, meaning both as part of recent migration and as historically embedded At the same time, as Eleni illustrates, migrant families continue to raise their children multilingually. She describes this coexistence of her multilingual reality and devaluation of Albanian and being Albanian in Greece as follows. "I speak Albanian, I learn it from my home. I speak Albanian. Even though my peers, both here in Germany and in Greece, do not know it, because there was that period of fear not to say that you are Albanian, because they would judge you." Eleni is raised multilingually and to the expectation that children should be raised monolingually. Eleni captures her translingual practices within her own family through a striking metaphor of home, when she says, if my house had languages, they would be Greek and Albanian. And if we follow Eleni's migration path to Germany, it becomes clear that German educational institutions also struggle to respond to the transnational lived realities. In the monolingually structured German school system, Eleni's multilingual competences, namely Albanian and Greek, are disregarded. Most of the newly arrived young people we interviewed described emotional stress, fear, or pressure related to learning German at school, highlighting the German language as their main struggle. Eleni, I quote, didn't feel comfortable simply because of the language. This highlights the powerful role of German in school as a non-negotiable requirement, not only for social inclusion, but also for social mobility. Eleni uses the metaphor of a huge mountain to describe her path towards social mobility within the German system. She wants to climb it, but couldn't. The mountain is too huge, too demanding to realistically reach the peak. In this sense, the peak represents going to university, a goal she has had since childhood, which seemed to be at risk at the time of her transition into the German school. In her own words, she explains, I wanted to go into diplomacy, I wanted to go into negotiations, I wanted to go into politics, but just getting there from the German school seemed like a huge mountain to me, one that I couldn't climb. I couldn't even begin to think about how to climb that mountain because the whole process from the integration class to get into university, and I couldn't even imagine it. But then, at the Greek school, everything seemed perfect to me. Eleni experienced a form of disqualification driven by her exclusion in the so-called integration class, along with being set back by 2 years. This makes the extent of the mountain she describes especially evident. By contrast, the Greek diaspora school, as Eleni portrays it, is the perfect school. Not perfect in itself, as we know from other interviewers, but perfect for her plans, her biography, and in this way for her to achieve social mobility. This understanding is closely linked to Eleni's experience of migration to Germany, which she describes as a forced migration using a drastic, emotionally charged expression. When I got on the plane, I actually wished the plane would just crash, just so I wouldn't arrive in Germany. At this stage in her life, the plane becomes to symbolize forced migration. But the plane reappears in her narrative with a changed meaning, reflecting Eleni's interpretation of her current situation. Now, the plane can be interpreted as a metaphor for Eleni's transnational mobility. Her current transnational way of life emerged from the social mobility made possible by graduating from the Greek diaspora school. Because today, Eleni is studying international and European studies in Athens, where she now lives. As a result, Eleni is able to tell her story as one of success, now flying over the huge mountain of the German school system that once blocked her path. I quote, Now I live a bit here and a bit there because my parents are here in Germany and my sister is here, but my life now is mostly on a plane. Consequently, graduating from the Greek diaspora school and studying in Greece did not lead Eleni to settle in Greece at all. In this sense, they contribute to the continuity of a transnational life. But I wouldn't want to try it in Greece. I don't know. I'll just close it as a chapter, let's say. I'm just there during the period of finishing university and continue my master somewhere abroad in Europe. And then other doors open for me. I know I want to try Albania at least once. Through transnational and social mobility, Eleni adopts fluid identities and tendency for linguistic fluidity beyond any fixed positioning, which leads us to our conclusion. Drawing on Lee Why and Tong King Lee's work, we conceptualize this identity performance and negotiation as transpositioning. Transpositioning is connected to the idea, I quote, "What is often referred to as self is contingent rather than permanent, always susceptible to shifts and transformations in interaction with other selves." This concept allows us to understand what we reconstruct in the interviews, namely transnational ways of being, not as inconsistencies or contradictions, but as expression of a complex social reality, a situational positioning that changed depending on context, language, or person someone is talking to. We would like to conclude by giving space to Eleni's authentic voice through reading aloud a selection of articulated positionalities you can see on the slide.
Ήμουν πάντα το παιδί με δύο ταυτότητες.
Jam femi botas.
Ήξερα στο πίσω μέρος του μυαλού μου ότι ήμουν ξένη, δηλαδή ήξερα ότι δεν θα ήμουν ποτέ Ελληνίδα, ας πούμε.
Unë nuk të kem prej ardhe. Unë prej ardhen time thjesht e kam nga mami dhe nga babi. Nuk e kam mohuar dhe nuk e kam harruar asnjëherë, gjithmonë e kam në mendje se jam shqiptare.
Είμαι μισή Ελληνίδα, μισή Αλβανίδα.
Edhe pse jam shqiptare, jam edhe greke. Thank you very much for listening to Eleni's story.
Thank you very much, both. This was fantastic. Excellent work. We have 6 minutes for questions from the audience. So if I can ask a little bit about how you worked multilingually for this project, especially now with the reading of the quotes. What kind of affordances, but also limitations of not speaking the language of the other, both of those languages inhabiting your participant Eleni.
Shall I start?
Yes, we can start.
Yeah, the word limitations is a key word, and I think the first association with this keyword is for me that we have the limitation. We don't have the whole repertoire of the participant, and we have experienced the feeling I cannot understand what is about. No? In this situation, the Vangelis or Eleni is very emotional, but I cannot even understand what she's saying. And this was a very good experience, for me, I think it was the first time that I thought it's so important to have limitations and to not to have the power to make the decisions about the languages that are important for the participants. It was an experiment. It was not easy for us to decide to make it this way. And the first interview was with Vangelis, and I know that we were after that. I don't know what it was. We were very confused.
Yes, we were confused, but later on we realized the potential this interview had, because we realized also how different he told us his story in Albanian or Greek. For instance, he told his story in a very detailed way in relation to his family in Albanian, which was very interesting for us.
And he talked with me about Athens and the school system and his experiences in a football group. And I think it's very important that they can associate with us. They can imagine in the situation what is the point, or who can speak with me about this important thing for me. And at the end, we have the feeling, and Eleni was our second interview.
Yes, was the second one.
She said to us at the end, it was the first time that she has the feeling that it was like a home with two languages.
She felt like she was talking to her
home. We were the home, Albanian Greek speaking, the Albanian Greek speaking home. And the same experiences, we made the same experiences in Athens with parents, with a lot of people with different experiences.
Thank you. Yes, Zoe.
Yes, I just want to thank you very much for this very touching and strong data that you also showed to us. And I just thinking of what you just commented upon now, I'm thinking that you show in a very nice way the affectional side of language and multilingualism. And I think that this is something very important for this kind of research to also lift. And I don't know if you're planning, it's always very difficult to write about emotions in relation to language. I think it's always something that we talk about in conferences, but then we fail to write in papers. I don't know if you're planning to do anything about it, but this data is very strong and it would be really interesting to write, to read about it.
Yes, I think I need to, because every interview is actually very emotional. So I'm thinking about also to consider this dimension in my PhD project. As I said, I need to, because it's so obviously important. Yes.
I hope you do.
Yes. And for me, it's not easy as the white Greek woman in this case, because I'm used to ask migrants in Germany. I am a migrant too, but for the people from Albania, I am a Greek speaking and a white people and woman. It's not easy.
Very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you. And on that note, you're off the hook for now. Thank you very much, Yuli and Egzona. It was very nice.